Hi guys, today we're going to read the first chapter of a book called Wise Words that we'll be using for devotions. It's from the book of Proverbs, is where they get the Bible verse from, and they're kind of fairy tales based on a proverb. All right, you guys ready to hear it?
Yeah, and Daddy's daughter.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 3 sons. Their names were Alexander, Julius, and Joseph.
Alexander the Great.
The king, Alexander, Julius, and Joseph. The king's name, of course, was Lothar.
Oh.
King Lothar lived with his wife, Queen Emma, and his sons in a white castle on top of the highest mountain in that part of the world. From the west tower of the castle, Lothar could view his entire kingdom, something he did after supper in the cool quiet of the twilight. His kingdom was as peaceful as the evening, and his people were rich and happy. Like you're happy, right? King Lothar was happy too. But Lothar had a problem.
What was the problem?
He was getting old.
Oh
no, okay. He was getting old, and he could not decide which of his sons should be king after him. In many kingdoms, this would not be a problem at all, because the oldest son takes the throne when his father dies. But in Lothar's kingdom, though the custom was different, the reigning king was allowed to give the crown to any son he wished. Alexander was the oldest of the 3 sons. Alexander was the most handsome and graceful man in the whole kingdom. He was sleek as a leopard, and when he was small, he liked to climb onto his father's throne. He would put the crown on his head and gaze at himself in a mirror. For hours, he would gaze. When he danced at the royal balls, everyone stared in amazement. Many people wanted Alexander to be king. Visitors would come from all over the world, they thought, just to see the handsome King Alexander. And their kingdom would be known from one end of the earth to the other. We'll read that one next, okay? Julius was the next oldest. He was the strongest man in the kingdom.
That was
yeah, and your brother. Julius was the strongest man in the kingdom. When he entered battle, Julius seemed transformed from a man into a terrifying beast that crushed and trampled his enemies. Julius did not want to rule only the small kingdom of his father. He wanted to conquer other lands. Deep down, his desire was to rule the world. Many people hoped Julius would be king. He would protect them from their enemies, they thought, and they were sure he would make their small kingdom into a great empire. No. All done, Gabe. Maybe even the greatest empire in the world. Joseph was the youngest. He was neither especially handsome or especially strong. He spent most of his days taking care of his father's sheep and goats in the hills around the castle. Instead of going with Julius to battle in the springtime, Joseph would stay at home to help the farmers plant their fields. Instead of spending winter dancing at the royal balls, as Alexander did, Joseph helped repair homes or dig animals out of snowdrifts. No one could remember whether or not Joseph had ever been in a battle or if he'd ever fought with anyone. Most of the people in the land thought Joseph would look pretty silly wearing a crown. No one thought Joseph would make a very good king. No one, that is, except Queen Emma. Joseph was her favorite. She wanted him to be king, and she told Lothar so day and night. Lothar wanted Alexander to become king, but Alexander was rather proud. Julius made a good warrior, but Lothar was not sure he was smart enough to be a good king. But Joseph? Not Joseph, Lothar thought. Still, Lothar did not want to make Emma unhappy, so he kept putting things off, unsure, as even kings sometimes are, about how he could please everyone and hoping somehow things would just work out. Lothar's problem was solved by his old friend Alfred. "Why don't you have a contest?" Alfred asked late one afternoon between mouthfuls of cheese and bread. "Oh, yes, King Lothar was so excited he almost tipped over his wine. We could assemble all the young maidens of the kingdom, and they could choose the next king. But then Alexander would be sure to win, Alfred replied, glaring at Lothar. No, no, your highness. If you let the maidens of the kingdom choose the next king, everyone will know you arranged for Alexander to be king. You must think of a fair contest, one that each of your sons will have a chance to win. Lothar and Alfred fell silent. A moment later, a toothless smile spread across Alfred's wrinkled face. I got it! We could have them race. Yes, that would be an excellent contest. They could run around the castle 3 times, swim the moat, then climb the wall to the west tower. The winner would be king. Lothar's face turned as red as his beard. You always did want Julius to be king, didn't you? Oh, sire, Alfred stopped. He knew King Lothar was right. Julius would certainly win any contest of strength. A race would not be a fair contest. Lothar and Alfred spent the rest of that afternoon and most of the night eating and drinking and trying to think of a fair contest for the 3 princes. By the time the sun rose the next morning, they had settled on a plan. Later that very day, King Lothar called the gentlemen and ladies to the castle to hear his announcement. Xavier, why don't you stand this side of me, okay? Sure.
Like nothing.
What? Let's see. Later that day, King Lothar called the gentlemen and the ladies to his castle to hear his announcement. The 3 princes stood at the center of the great hall, dressed in their finest clothes. King Lothar rose from his throne and began to speak. You want to read for King Lothar? Right there, as you.
As you all know, I must choose who shall become king when I die.
Good.
This is a most important decision. If I select the right man, the kingdom will remain strong and rich and happy. If I make a bad choice, the kingdom will be doomed to weakness and misery.
Can you bring the chair a little bit more forward, Xavier?
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. Okay, listen to the story, buddy. Okay, put this one down. Alfred and I have decided that the contest will determine who will be king. The contest is this. Each of my sons will search for the most wonderful, most royal creature in the world. It must be a creature that represents what it means to be a king. And one that will be useful to a king. And I and the 12 gentlemen of the kingdom will judge who has found the most wonderful and royal creature. So what's the contest?
They have to try to find the most amazing creature in the world.
Yeah, each of the princes has to each come back and find an animal. Okay, Xavier, or it says a creature. It doesn't have to be an animal. So the next day, Alexander. What do you guys remember about Alexander?
He's handsome.
He's handsome. And Julius, what do you remember about Julius?
Can't remember.
He fights a lot. He's a good soldier.
Oh
yeah. And then Joseph. What about Joseph?
He's good at he takes care of the sheep and
yeah. A month later, Alexander returned. The lords and the ladies of the kingdom assembled before Lothar's throne in the great hall to find what Alexander had brought with him. When all was quiet, Alexander clapped his hands, and 2 servants carried in a cage covered with golden cloth. Alexander began to speak. I have traveled many miles this past month. I traveled east to Asia, and there I found the most beautiful and royal creature in the world. See for yourselves its magnificent glory. What do you think Alexander's going to bring?
A horse.
A horse? What do you think, Sophie?
Where is he?
Oh, you're trying to read what it is.
I know. I want to know where he is so I can.
Now we're on this page. With that, Alexander pulled away the golden cloth, and inside the cage was a large peacock. The lords and ladies gasped. Several ladies screamed, and one fainted out of wonder. It truly was the most beautiful creature they'd ever seen. Oh, it's okay. We'll get you a Band-Aid later, okay?
Here, let me see it.
It's okay.
It's okay. Wait, let me see.
Oh.
Let me check it one more time.
Its breast was a deep blue like the evening sky. Its tail was covered with bright yellow eyes, and it seemed to be wearing a delicate jeweled crown. Here. We'll get you a Band-Aid. Let me see. No, you don't need one. It's all better.
No.
I'll get you a Band-Aid after, okay? Hey.
Stop, I'm trying to do this.
Hey, Sophie, can you go get Gabe a Band-Aid? Hey, Gabe, Sophie's gonna get you one, okay?
Come on, Gabe. Let's go get a Band-Aid.
Okay, Xavier, stop. If you want to be here and help make the video, you can't be goofy, okay? Okay. So, what animal did Alexander bring?
A peacock.
A peacock. What animal do you think Julius will bring?
A bear.
A bear?
Yeah. The most fierce, one of the most fierce animals.
A bear?
Yeah.
Okay, what about okay. So what animal did Alexander bring?
Peacock?
A peacock, yeah. Alexander let the peacock out of its cage. It strutted around the great hall and screeched so loudly that everyone clapped his hands to his ears. With this creature at my side, Alexander said, I will become the greatest king in the world. I will make the whole kingdom as beautiful as this peacock. Kings will come from over the southern sea to see my beautiful bird and my beautiful kingdom. The peacock will be the symbol of my rule. King Lothar and the 12 gentlemen agreed that Alex had found a wonderful and royal creature indeed.
Well,
Xavier, here, you go, just to the side.
Wait, you're on this.
No, I gotta help Gabe.
I can't even that. I can't. You can only see a ball of hair.
Xavier, move your leg.
Paul, why can't they see me?
Okay, there you go, Gabe. Here, I'll put it on your finger, okay? Which finger?
You just have to pause the video. No, I gotta so they can see. Go there.
Okay, now you guys need to listen, okay? King Lothar and the 12 gentlemen agreed that Alexander had found a wonderful and royal creature indeed. But we must wait for the others, Lothar said. At the end of the second month, Julius returned. What do you think Julius is going to bring, Sophie?
I think he's gonna bring. He's in Africa, right?
Maybe.
I just lying.
Okay, we'll see. Julius, the second month Julius returned. The next morning, the lords and ladies gathered in the great hall to find out what Julius had brought back with him. Julius swaggered into the room with his head high. He raised his hand to quiet the people and then began to speak in a loud voice. I have traveled many miles in these 2 months. I walked through deserts and jungles. I sailed across oceans. I went south to Africa. and there I found the most powerful and royal creature in the world. Julius clapped his hands, and a servant entered the room, leading a great lion on a strong
I
rope.
thought bear's close to a lion.
Bear's close to a lion, yeah. The lion roared so loudly the walls of the great hall shook. The lords and ladies were amazed. Several ladies screamed, and one fainted out of fear. You are right to be afraid, Julius said. Your juice? Your juice is all gone right now. You can go get it. So you can help him get a smoothie. Okay.
Read it. Read it.
He is strong and fierce, and with this lion at my side, I will become the most feared king on the earth. I will hunt and tear my enemies as a lion does its prey. This lion will be the symbol of my rule. And while he was speaking, Alexander's peacock strutted into the room. The lion crouched, staring at the peacock, and then slowly circled it. The lion leaped at the peacock and ate it in one bite. The lords and ladies were silent. The lion roared again. Surely Julius had found the more wonderful and royal creature. King Lothar and the 12 gentlemen were very pleased. But we must wait for Joseph, Lothar said. The next month seemed to take forever. As everyone waited and waited for Joseph to return, in every shop, around every dinner table, at every street corner, they talked of nothing but the prince's contest. The people of the kingdom were certain that Julius would win. How could Joseph possibly find a more wonderful and royal creature than Julius's great lion? The butcher told the milkmaid that Joseph would probably bring a lamb, which would make a nice snack for Julius's lion. Soon everyone was telling the butcher's joke. Queen Emma heard it, though, and she didn't laugh. Y'all done? Okay. Finally, at the end of the third month, Joseph returned. With great excitement, the lords and ladies gathered before Lothar's throne in the great hall. The common people gathered outside, straining to see and hear what would happen. What animal do you think Joseph's going to bring?
I don't know. Bear.
A bear? Okay.
I'm not. I said bear.
For Julius, yeah. He waited for the people he entered, wearing a dusty shepherd's cloak. He waited for the people to be quiet, and then he began to speak. I have not spent the past 3 months traveling. I went just over the mountains to a place where I've often been before. From there, I brought back the most wise and royal creature in the world.
Oh, it's going to be a lion, I think. Probably a lamb.
Joseph
a mountain lion.
The mountain lion? Joseph disappeared into the crowd. And when he returned, he was leading a pretty young girl by the hand. Like Joseph, she was dressed in a simple shepherd's cloak. The lords and ladies gasped. Several ladies screamed, and one fainted out of disappointment. Before his mother could cover his mouth, a little boy cried out, "It's Sophia the shepherd girl. He kept us waiting 3 months for her." Joseph waited for the crowd to become quiet again. This is not what you expected, I know. But she is indeed the wisest, most royal creature in the world. She will be my counselor, my friend, my love, the mother of kings who shall come after me. With her at my side, I shall become the wisest, most just king on earth. Not now. Sophia shall be the symbol of my reign. You didn't mean to hold you, buddy. Just then, the lion's coming, Gabe. Just then, Julius's lion strode proudly into the room and began to circle Joseph and Sophia. Joseph backed away, leaving Sophia to face the lion alone. The lords and ladies held their breath. The lion lunged towards Sophia and roared, but Sophia stood unmoved. Without a word, she put out a small hand to stroke the lion's forehead. The lion jerked away, circled, and then came again. Sophia touched him lightly on the head, spoke softly in his ear, and gently smoothed his mane. Minutes later, the lion lay down on the floor, yawned, and closed his eyes. Sophia caressed his head until he was fast asleep. Then she walked over to Joseph and kissed him. King Lothar was amazed. Queen Emma was very happy. And all the 12 gentlemen agreed that Joseph's was truly the most wonderful and royal creature. Even Alexander and Julius agreed that Joseph had won the contest.
I knew that he was going to be the king.
Joseph was?
Yeah.
How did you know?
Because he's the littlest, but littlest can still be the best.
Oh. 8 days later, Joseph and Sophia were married. Joseph wore a long purple robe and Sophia a flowing white dress with jewels of every kind woven into the cloth. And when King Lothar died, Joseph became king and ruled wisely and justly ever after, with his lovely Sophia at his side. Here's the verse from Proverbs. The beginning of wisdom is this: acquire wisdom with all your acquiring. Get understanding, prize her, and she will exalt you. She will honor you. Is it a lion? Yeah. She will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a garland of grace. She will present you with a crown of beauty. Proverbs 4, verses 7 through 9. So what was important wasn't being handsome or strong. The most important thing was being wise. Right? Were there any Bible stories this reminded you of?
Is there a story of the lost sheep or something?
The story of the lost sheep. Okay. And there's the story.
I think Daniel and the Lion's Den.
Daniel and the Lion's Den, because the lion doesn't eat the person everyone thinks it will eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, remember King Solomon, where God asked what he wanted, and Solomon asked for wisdom. All right, here, let's pray. Dear Jesus, please help us to seek wisdom and not focus on being strong or good looking or anything. The most important thing is seeking wisdom in your love. May we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, that's the story for tonight. We'll see you guys later for another one tomorrow or tomorrow night. We'll see.
Bye.